Okay, yeah, we're on. So before we get going, realize the rough draft is due 2 days from now on Wednesday. I want to remind you. I know I've gotten one or two of you guys have submitted your rough draft. Make sure to get that done. Make sure to follow the instructions that are in Blackboard under, what does it say? Paper information is the tab that you need to focus on. Tells you exactly kind of what to do. Let me, hold on, guys. Give me 1 second. Videos. There we go. It's in the right folder. Okay. What else do we have going on? I think Wednesday we're going to go over E and F. Yeah, so the next test will be a week from today. If everything goes smooth. If E and F take us longer to cover, I don't think it will. It's not as long. But if for some reason it takes a little longer to cover, I'll push it back. But we're going to count on that test being a week from today. So the next test will be a week from today. The rough draft is due Wednesday in 2 days. Today, though, we're going to talk about 4D, which is on really loans. You got loan payments, credit cards, mortgages. We're going to talk a little bit about terminology that maybe you've heard before that you weren't quite sure what that meant. If you have a question, please let me know. Again, I'm not a financial advisor. We're just going to talk about the math side of things and how certain things can get out of hand with credit cards quickly. And then also when you're looking at, like loan payments, like for a house, maybe, you can, they make loan calculators. So it's not like you have to remember this formula per se, but might give you a better idea of kind of how to look at it on what you can afford and the best loan to maybe go with for your situation. Okay, so the basics. The loan basics are, first off, there's the principal, right? Which your book, I'm going to just read the kind of definition here on page 237. It says, for any loan, the principal is the amount of money owed at any particular time, right? So if you're going to buy a house, let's say for $1,000, before you make your first payment, the principal is $100,000, I should say. So if you buy it for $100,000, that's your principal. And then each month, as you start making those payments, your principal gets lower and lower and lower, right? That's what's happening. It's just the amount that you actually owe to the bank at that time. Excuse me. To pay off a loan, you must gradually pay down the principal, of course. The loan term is the time you have to pay back the loan in full. Okay, so the term is, of course, the time they give you to pay it off. Typically with mortgages, it's 15-year or 30-year. There's also a 20-year loan. There's probably other different ones, but 15 and 30 are the most common mortgage loans that are on the market. And then there's a formula on the bottom of page 237 on how to calculate the payment. Didn't we do that already? Is it the same? Hold on a second. Yes, that works. Oh, no, because the other one was a savings. This is for paying it off. They use the same terminology. Okay, let's do one of these by hand to show you how to kind of pop in your calculator and things like that. Let me switch over to the document camera. And this is the formula on the very bottom of page 237. It's called Loan Payment Formula for the Installment Loans. So we've got the payment, which is equal to the principal P times, and then we've got APR over N. Now N, remember, is the number of payments a year, or they say per period. We're going to do a year, and then all divided by big parentheses 1 minus 1 plus APR over N, and then raised to the negative N to the Y, and then we've got to close the big payment. Okay, so if we wanted to calculate our payment on a loan, and we know the annual percentage rate, we know the number of payments we're going to make during that year, during the period, and we know the number of years, right? We can just pop it into this calculator and we'll get the payment. So look, you know what? I am going to look right now. I'm just going to get on the internet, and I'm going to look at a 20-year, let's say 15-year mortgage rate. What are today's rates? Probably going to get a virus. Home purchase. Oh, Lord, I don't want to answer 30 questions. Hold on, guys. Okay, it looks like the APR, I'm getting around 2.9, 2.76, 3.0. Let's do 2.95. How about that? So let's say our APR that we find for our house is 2.95%. Now remember, we've got to write that as 0.0295, right? We have to write it as a decimal. N is going to be 12 because we're going to make monthly payments on this thing. And we're going to look, this is a 15-year mortgage. So we're going to look at paying it off in 15 years. And then let's see how much, let's just look at the average house and Mountain. Average housing price, Mountain Home, Arkansas. The median price of homes in Mountain, Arkansas is $150,000. Well, that'll be kind of easy. So we'll say we're going to buy a house for $150,000, right? $150,000. We're going to mortgage the whole thing. We're not going to put a down payment on it, which isn't smart. But let's just, for the sake of this example, we're going to get a mortgage out for $150,000. We're going to pay it off in 15 years in 12-month payments, right? Not like biweekly. We can do that as well to kind of see how much we'd save. And we want to know, well, what's our payment going to be? We're going to pop it into this equation, and it'll give us our payment. So our payment is going to be, now I'm going to do a parentheses for the numerator. So 100, remember our principal is 150,000. That's how much we're going to get out. Times, now I'm going to do the APR, so 0.0295 divided by N, that's 12. So we're going to close that. That's our numerator, right? And now I'm going to divide that by the denominator. So I might run out of space. So I'll keep writing it down here. So actually, let's write underneath. So I'm going to divide it by, I'm going to write this underneath because I'm going to run out of space. Big parentheses for the denominator, 1 minus, small parentheses for this part, 1 plus 0.0295 divided by 12. Raise that to the negative 12 times 15, and then close that off. Yep. So this should give us our answer. I'm going to pop it into my calculator to see what my payment would be. So 150,000 times, not plus, 0.0295 divided by 12. So close that off, divided by, and then the denominator, 1 minus parentheses, 1 plus 0.0295 divided by 12 raised to the negative 12 times 15, and then close that off. Oh, $1,032.27. $1,032.27. So if you want to pay off a $150,000 loan in 15 years, paying it off monthly at 0.0295% APR, it's going to cost you $132.27 a month. Now, just because I'm interested, and I think this turns into an example later on, I want to see how much that winds up being over those 15 years, right? So if my payment's $1,032.27, I want to know, well, how much goes to the bank and how much actually goes to paying off the loan, right? So I'm going to do this on the side over here. So I'm going to say $1,032.27 times 12 months, right? Because I'm going to make that each month times 15 years. So So that's 1032.27 times 12 times 15 winds up being 1,000 or $185,808.60. So that means this is the total amount that this loan is going to cost me, right? So in interest, I could subtract 150 from that, so minus 150,000. So $35,808.60. That's how much I'm paying in interest, right? Hope that kind of makes sense. So, I'm paying about $35,808.60 in interest by getting this loan. Okay, and that's how banks make their money. If you're wondering how do banks keep getting more money? Well, that's one of the ways they have more money, even though I know it baffled me. This is a goofy Mr. Shirley thought in college. Like all I had was like my free checking account, right? And it had like $20 in it max. I'm like, how is this bank making money off $20 checking accounts? Well, they're making money off of mortgage loans, and they're making money off of CD rates where they take your money and then invest it in something else that makes a higher percentage rate. So that's how they make money, right? It's not off. In a way, it is off your little $20 checking account too, but it's not mainly off that. It's off this kind of stuff. Okay. Oh. Let's see here. Yeah, your book does an example about student loan. It's actually very similar to this, so you can look at that one. The example one on page 238. Yeah. Hold on. Mm-hmm. Okay, this is a good one. So let's kind of theoretically go. Say we're going to buy a car. Okay, we're going to buy a car, and this car, your book. I'm going to steal the example from your book, but this car is going to be $6,000, and you've got a few different rates to look at to see how much it's going to cost you to own this vehicle, right? So we've got this $6,000 loan, so that's going to be our principal, right? $6,000 to buy the car, and your bank gives you three offers. You've got a 3-year loan at 8%, a 4-year loan at 9%, and a 5-year loan at 10%. And you want to calculate your monthly payment and total interest over the loan. Okay, so let's start with that first one. We've got a 3-year loan at 8%. Okay, so we got a 3-year loan at 8%, and we want to know what the payment's going to be, how much we're going to spend over the life of the loan on interest, and things like that. So okay, so let's see here. So we've got, if we go back to this formula, so it's going to be the payment equals the principal, $6,000, times, so it's going to be 0.08 over 12. Divided by, assume we're paying this monthly. They didn't say that, but we're just going to assume your car payment is always monthly. 1 minus 1 plus 0.08 over 12 to the negative 12 times 3, right? Negative 12 times 3 years, and then close that amount. Now I'm going to be a little lazy, guys. It turns out when you do this math, I'm going to steal it right from the book. It turns out to be $188.02. So that would be your monthly payment if you had a $6,000 loan over 3 years at 8%. So you're going to make $188 for that payment. So let's go to the second one just because I'm interested to see what the loan or the payment's going to be for this next one. So now we're going to stretch the years out. We're going to go to 4 years. So it should be a lower payment because we're going from 3 to 4 years, right? I mean, if you take 6,000 divided by 36 or divided by, what's that? 24. That's not right. 48. Good gosh. You're just going to have less this number should be lower, right? But now they give us a higher interest rate. It's at 9%. So 3-year loan at 9%. So we do the same thing, same calculator, payment equals. Now the only thing different here is it's going to be at a 0.09, and then instead of 3, it's going to be 4, right? So 6,000 times 0.09 over 12 divided by 1 minus 1 minus 1 plus 0.09 over 12, but then we're going to raise that to the negative 12 times 4. And again, I'm going to steal this from the book. It says it's going to be 149.31. Okay, so yeah, we have less payment, right? That's nice. So we have a small payment. Now we pay it over a longer amount of time, over 4 years, but so it'll take us an extra year to get this thing paid off. But our payment is lower. So I mean, maybe if that works into our budget better, whatever. Okay, so then let's look at the last option that the bank gives us, which is a 5-year at 10%. Now I'm going to be super lazy here and just steal this from the book. If you pop it into that equation, so it's going to be 0.1 instead of 0.09, and then 5 instead of 4, you wind up with the lowest of our payments, right? 127.48. Okay, so that's our look. So I mean, if you're just going based off monthly payments, I mean, this is going to be your best option if that's solely what you're after, finding the lowest monthly payment. The issue is this is going to be the worst option financially when it comes to paying off the loan, right? Like if we looked at the total cost of each one of these loans. So now I'm going to look at the total cost. So this first one, I'm going to take 188.02 times 12 months, right? Because these are monthly payments. Now this one was for 3 years. So if I do that in my calculator, I would get 188.02 times 12 times 3. You get $6,768.72. So the cost of just the loan is going to be $768, right? Do you guys see that? So the cost of just interest, I don't think that's how you, yeah, total interest. The total interest I'm going to pay over this loan, let me write that down. Total interest. It's going to be 768.72. Okay, so for total interest, 768.72. So let's do this for the second one. So I'm going to do the same thing, 149.31 times 12 times, now this is going to be 4 years. 149.31 times 12 times 4. Wait. Hold on a second. I didn't do something right. Oh, no, yeah, I did. Oh, Lord. Okay. So we get 7,166.88. So the total interest paid here, remember the loan was for 6,000, right? And our total payments are 7,166. So that means our interest is going to be $1,166.88. So it went from 768 paying in total interest to 1,166 in total interest. So the last one, the 5-year, which looks great. Oh, hey, our payment's only $127. But if we do the same thing, 12 times 5, so 127.48 times 12 times 5 is $7,648.80. So that means our total interest is going to be $1,648.80. I mean, if you think about this, just based off the original, hold on a second. So I mean, that's almost like paying like 27% just in interest, right? over the length of this loan. So even though, and this is how they get, I mean, a car lot is going to get you this way, right? They want you, they don't care about you looking at the price. They're making more money now off the interest from these loans, right? I know Ford put out about a decade ago, they were making less money, or they were making more money now from their finance department than from their actual, from actually making their vehicles. So that says something, right? So their goal is to get you into this interest rate at this length of time. And the way they're going to do it is they're going to present it in a lowest payment. Like, oh, this is your lowest payment, because they're going to make the most out of these. They're looking at this number, right? They're going to make the most off that payment by doing it that way. Now, if you've got to have a vehicle, I mean, this is all different. If you have to have a vehicle and this is the only way you could do it, and it's the only way if it's in your budget, I get it. But if you want to look at it long term, if you can afford that 188, you definitely need to do the 188, and you'll get it paid off in 3 years, right? So you could use that once it's paid off, and let's say it's still a dependable vehicle, you can bankroll at 188 a month, right, at that point. So you can put that in a savings, put it towards something else, whatever. It's paid off in 3 years, where you've got 2 more years down here of paying off that 127.48. So it's just a different way to think about it. And it's a way now that, I mean, there's nothing wrong with a company wanting to make money. I'm not trying to go that route by any means. It's just be careful when you just see, whenever a car dealer just tells you the amount you're going to pay per month, I need a red flag to go off in your head. Okay. Like, oh, that's only $120 a month. Yeah. Red flags need to just shoot off in your head. You need to ask them what the interest rate is. And you need to ask them the length of the loan. And then you also need to know what, what's the average interest rate right now you can get, if you went through different ways of getting car loans. Their goal is to put you, I don't know if any of you guys in this class have bought a car lately, but the goal is for you to sit in there, the loan guy, whatever they call him, the credit person, and he's going to harass you till you purchase everything at the worst interest rate. Okay. Whew. Questions about that? I know there's only 2 of you guys in here, but if you have a question, let me know if something doesn't make sense, or if maybe I'm kind of glancing over something that makes sense to me. But if you haven't heard that before, just let me know. Another one they do is they'll say, oh, we'll pay the finance. And sometimes you got to be careful, because all they're doing is rolling into that loan. So I say finance, they'll pay the sales tax. Like right now, if you bought a vehicle in Mountain Home, sales tax is about I think it's 6.7%. So let's say 6,000 times 165. So you're going to pay about $400 in sales tax, right? Well, what they'll do is they'll put it into your loan, and then they'll get the interest off that sales tax. So it's like a double paycheck for them in a way, if you let them roll it into your the length of your loan. I don't know if they can still do that. I know that was a tactic a few years back that they could do. That might, sometimes these things get regulated and they can't do that anymore, but that was a tactic there for a little while. Yeah, and then, okay, so your book then does an example about credit cards. Credit cards are the worst because they have the worst interest rate. They might have a beautiful introductory rate, but then afterwards it plummets. Like I'm Googling right now, credit card interest rates. Hold on. The 10 best credit cards of 2021. Let's see here. Yeah, so right now it'll be a 0% introductory APR for 12 billing cycles, for 12 months, or maybe even 18 months. But then the regular APR is going to be a lot more, between 15 or 24%. Your book does a good example because it's right in between there. Example 4 on page 242. I know you're just seeing a blank screen right now, but example 4 on page 242 or 243 does an example where You've got a credit card balance of $2,300 with an annual interest rate of 21%. But 21% is pretty normal for a credit card after your introductory 18 months or 12 months or whatever. So it goes through, how to calculate that payment. But then on the next page brings up a more interesting scenario, which happens. And it talks about this guy named Paul. Paul has gotten into credit card trouble, has a balance of $9,500 and just lost his job. His credit card company charges an APR 21%. So same as, that really looks like a going rate, 21% compounded daily. Suppose the credit card company allows him to suspend his payments until he finds a new job. So you think they're doing you a service, right? Like, oh, you don't have to make your minimum monthly payment while you're looking for a job. But the issue is that interest still keeps rolling, okay? It continues to charge interest. If it takes him a year to find a new job, how much will he owe when he starts his new job? So, and it goes through, that's a very basic compound interest question from a few sections ago, but it winds up going from $9,500 to $11,719 from him just not making payments, right? And that's how compound interest works, especially if it's at 21% interest, right? That's a huge amount of interest. Okay. Okay. So now we're going to get to mortgages. So mortgages, there's a lot of terms that happen when you buy a house. And I don't mean terms like loan link terms. I mean like words that we need to grasp. And your book does a really good job of going over. So I'm going to start there on page 244. And actually, I'm going to talk about the green box first, which is on the right. It says, a home mortgage is an installment loan designed specifically to finance a home. So the goal is to finance your house, right? That is a mortgage. It is the loan for a house. A down payment, of course, is the amount of money you must pay up front in order to be given a mortgage or other loan. Typically, it's 10 to 20%. I know so you can find 0% down loans. There's a lot of risk involved in 0% down loans. It's not that there's a pro or con. The biggest con is that you don't have a principal paid down. So when it comes to paying off the loan, it's going to be more. You're going to pay more in interest over the life of the loan because you're going to be paying an extra 10% on top of the interest in a way. And then if something happens to the house, like if you have to get out from it, you're going to wind up paying more. You're probably going to have to wind up paying out of pocket to get out of it if something does happen, if you do not put a down payment on a house. So financial advisors will tell you to put 20% down. And now a lot of times to even get a loan, you have to have 20% down. But just, again, I'm not a financial advisor. That's just typically what you'll hear thrown around. So closing costs. Closing costs are fees you must pay in order to be given the loan. They may include a variety of direct costs or fees charged as points. Now, points are something that sound goofy, but it's not a big deal. It's where each point is 1% of the loan amount. So let's say you bought a house for $100,000 and they say it costs 1 point to close the loan. Like their fee is 1 point. What that means is if the house is $100,000, 1% of 100,000 is 1,000. Okay. So the 1 point for that house would be $1,000. So the cost to close for that bank would be 1 point. Oh, it's $1,000. Now let's say you bought another house and say it was $250,000. Well, 1 point of $250,000 would be 1% of $250,000. So $2,500. Okay, so that 1 point for that house is $2,500. It's going to cost you $2,500 to close that house, where it'll cost you $1,000 to close the $100,000 house. It's just different banks work differently on how they do closing costs and closing fees. But when you hear the term, oh, it costs a point, it means 1% of the house, the principal of the house. Okay, or not really principal. The 1% of the cost of it. Is it cost of the loan? The loan amount. Yes, the loan amount, not the value of the house amount. Yeah, the loan amount. Ooh, forgot about that. Okay, cool. So your book then goes over fixed rate mortgages, which are just really what we were doing before. The first example, right? Hold on. So that first example we did was an example of a fixed rate mortgage. Remember, it was 2.95%, 15 years, $150,000. That's a fixed rate mortgage. Your book goes over two examples of, or the first example, example 6, goes over, which loan should you choose, a 30-year at 5% or a 15-year at 0.045. If you can ever afford a 15-year loan, you should go for it. Okay, hands down, it will save you tremendously in the long run, and your principal gets paid off quicker. So if for some reason you have to get out of the house, you will have a bigger chunk paid off once you go to sell it. So therefore, it's cash. I mean, there's just I can't think of a reason why a 30-year, other than if it was, it's more emotional reason, like, oh my God, I have to have this house and I can't afford the payment unless I do a 30-year loan. Okay. That's the only reason I can think of it. Like mathematically, you should always go with a 15-year loan. Okay. There's not going to be a time. Now, of course, if the interest rates are lower on 15-year loans too, it's because there's less risk involved to the bank. So they lower the interest rate. So it's just part of it. So 15-year loan is going to be better mathematically when it comes to owning a house. And the book, I think, does. Yeah, we looked at that one. Let's look at the example we did earlier. Okay, I'm going to click over, and I'm going to say that we've got that same amount. Remember, we did $150,000 over 15 years at 2.95%. And it wound up costing us, really the total interest, right? The total interest was $35,808.60. So let's say for some reason, which this is not usually true, we can get the same interest rate, but we're going to do it for more years. Hold on. We're going to do this for more years. So we're going to do, instead of 15 years, we're going to do 30 years. So let me get another piece of paper out. So we've still got $150,000 is our principal. The APR, we'll keep it the same, but what happens on APRs with 30, your interest rate usually goes up. But we're just going to keep it the exact same to show you what happens. And then, and of course, it's still 12 because it's a monthly payment. Why, though, is 30 instead of 15? So if we did the calculations, payment equals, it's going to be 150,000 times 0.0295 divided by 12 over 1 minus 1 plus 0.0295 divided by 12 raised to the negative 12 times 30, right? Negative 12 times 30. That's the only difference. Let me pop this in the old calculator. So 150,000 times 0.0295 divided by 12 divided by 1 minus 1 plus 0.0295 divided by 12, but raise that to the negative 12 times 30. Close that up. So, oh man, our payment is much better. $628. If I did this math right, $628.37. That is not bad at all, right? Remember, our payment on the last one was $1,032. Okay, so now let's take this out, because now we're doing it over 30 years, right? So 628.37 times 12 times 30 is equal to $226,213.20. Holy cow. So the life of the loan is going to cost us $226,213.20. $213. So that, I mean, think about this. For total interest, the principal was 150. So it's this minus 150. Now that means, well, I can do that in my head. That's 76,213.20. So we more than doubled. Think about this, guys. Let me go here. We doubled the total interest paid on the 15-year loan was 35,000-ish. For the 30-year loan, it's 76,000. We more than doubled the total interest we're paying to the bank. Now, it's over 30 years. It's not over 15 years, right? But we more than doubled that amount to the loan or to the bank, which is kind of crazy. I mean, I don't know. I really don't know. I'm not a bank. I don't know if they want you in a 30-year compared to 15-year. I know that they're getting less. I know, like, my mortgage payment's a 15-year mortgage payment, and they're making a lot less off of me, right? Then, like, the first house I bought, which was I did a 30-year mortgage payment. They really, and it was a lot smaller house. They probably got more off of me for that one than my 15-year right now, even though it's a bigger house, okay, or a more expensive house, I should say it that way. Okay. So, and then your book goes over. This is interesting. If you guys have questions about this, please just ask. This stuff intrigues me as a math person and also as someone. This is the real world math stuff, right? When they're like, oh, why don't they teach us real world math? We're doing it. Okay, we are doing this. So if someone complains about that again, you can say, no, in my college level math class, we talked about mortgage rates and interest rates and credit card rates. Okay. Your book then goes, oh yeah, it goes over the closing cost question. You can look at that one. It is pretty interesting. But the one graph I want to talk about, actually, it's the book here, and it's on the prepayment strategies. And it talks about the amount. Let me see if I can get that a little better in focus. Probably not. Yeah, you're gonna have to open the book up. It's on page 247. This is the graph. And it talks about the monthly, the amount you pay towards interest and the amount you pay towards principal. At the very beginning of the loan, like, this is the total amount of the loan. I think it was like $537. Okay, so if your total loan amount was $537 at the beginning, it was a 30-year, $100,000 loan at 5%. Okay, your payment's going to be $537. At the very beginning of this, the largest chunk of your payment just goes to interest. That's all it is. Okay, it's just interest. And your book even says, like, at year 5, only $153 goes to the principal, and the rest, $384, goes to interest. So you got to think you're not even really paying off the loan that much at first, right? I mean, and this is part of the reason you don't want to just do 100% finance loan, is because your principal really isn't going down much, okay, at all. It doesn't kick in. I mean, it doesn't even really look to be about half. That's a 30-year. It doesn't look to be about half, which this would be about, what, 250, till about year 17 or 18. Okay, somewhere in there, then half is principal and half is interest. Okay, so it just takes a long time. I mean, the bank is making that money right here in that blue area. And I'll tell you, I mean, something that, you know, one of the real estate people I know told me really kind of early on when I bought my first house was, typically people aren't in houses for 5 to 6 years. That's kind of the normal amount. 15 years at the longest. So you got to think about that too. If you're only going to be, if you know you're not sure if you're going to be somewhere for 30 years, if you're only there for 6 or 7 years on average, I mean, you haven't paid off any of that loan, right? You haven't hit the sweet spot yet. Okay, especially if you're at 100% of a loan payment. Okay, especially if you finance 100% of the house. So again, another reason why it's important to do either a 15-year or put down 20%. Okay. Now, look, we all make mistakes. My first house, I didn't put 20% down, and I did it for 30 years. And I can tell you, it burned me whenever I went to sell it. I did not make that much off of it. because of those reasons. Okay. And not that I'm like going over this, making it sound negative. It truly mathematically, you just shouldn't do it. Okay. You shouldn't do a 30-year at 100%. It just mathematically should not be done. Okay. And you can argue that with me. That's fine. There's probably special scenarios where it's okay. But overall, it's not smart. Okay. So the next page, example 8, an alternative strategy. Oops, switch over to. Oh yeah. Hold on. Yeah. One strategy that a lot of people do is, try to pay it off early, right? So this is what the book talks about with example 8. It says, hey, an alternative strategy to the mortgage option in exercise 6 is to take the 30-year loan at 5%, but to try to pay it off in 15 years by making larger payments than are required. To carry out this plan, how much would you have to pay each month? Discuss the pros and cons. So it just, all you do is you take the 5%. Instead of doing a 30-year, you do a 15-year, pretty straightforward. And you just find out how much more it would cost you each month. Like if we did it for our example, because we kept the same APR and everything, we know it's going to cost us about $400 more, a little less than $400 more. Actually, no, a little more than $400 more a month. So instead of that $628 a month, it was $1,032. So it costs us about $400 more a month if we're going to pay it off. If we had a 30-year at 2.95% for a $100,000 house, $150,000 house, if we wanted to pay that off in 15 years, we'd have to pay $400 more. That's what it's talking about in example 8. And then lastly, it talks about ARM, adjustable rate mortgages, which the housing crisis that happened in 2008, 2009, they blame it on the adjustable rate mortgage. That's it's just one of the many issues that happened in that time period. But one of the reasons that there's pros and cons to adjustable rate mortgages. There's more cons than pros. But the adjustable rate, it just fluctuates. So they might give you a lower rate now, but then let's say in 4 or 5 years, it's kind of recalibrated. I hope that's how they go over it. I know that's the adjustable rate mortgage. I know the person I had it, that's what happened. They had a very low rate for 2 to 3 years. And then after 2 to 3 years, they kind of update it to the current rates. And so it adjusts as the loan goes along, which can be good or bad. Yeah. So let's see. A bank offering 4% rate. This is kind of halfway through that section. 4% rate on a fixed year, 30-year mortgage might offer, an ARM, an adjustable rate at 3%. Most ARMs guarantee their starting rates for the first 6 months or a year, but interest rates in subsequent years move up or down to reflect prevailing rates. So, there's a pro and con. If the rates go down, your rate could actually go down on an adjustable rate. I know a lot of people that do that flip houses and stuff, they might actually choose an adjustable rate because they can, the goal is just to buy the house, flip it, and then sell it within a year or two. Well, if you're going to do that, you might as well just get an adjustable rate for a lower amount. And the issue was in 2008, they did that and then they got stuck with the mortgage, right? So they bought the house, they flipped it, they couldn't sell the house. So now they're stuck in this adjustable rate mortgage on a house that they can't sell. So that was one of the issues. There were much bigger issues on why that recession happened in 2008, though. Okay. I think that's it. Yeah, for 4D. Okay, so for homework on 4D, it's 1 through 61 odd. Your book, your schedule reflects that. So 1 through 61 odd. So today we went over 4D. So on Monday we're going to go over. Wednesday we're going to go over E and F, which really go over income tax and the federal budget. I don't know if I can get through both of those in one lecture. I'm going to try, but I'm not going to speed. Okay, so if it takes us more than one lecture to get those done, so be it. We're kind of playing it by ear a little bit, and I'll tell you, part of the reason we're playing it by ear, and I've said this before, is I haven't taught this class in 6 years, so it's not knowing how long some of these sections take to go over. Some of these sections are short. I mean, they're 15 minutes. Like there's like 2 pages. Some are longer. So that's why. So okay. Anyway, I'll see you guys. I'll see you on Wednesday. Have a good few days off. Make sure to get that homework done.